The first question, I didn't catch the grave worshiping Sheikh spoke about that the Berailvis do. Is talking to persons at the grave site constitute shirk? If you ask them to make dua for you, is this what Sheikh means by worshiping the grave? It's a very important question. A Berailwi is a grave worshipper, and they are found in India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Not everybody in these countries worship the graves, only some people. So please do not entertain the idea that every Pakistani is a Berailwi, or every Indian Muslim is a Berailwi, and every Bengal is a Berailwi. Only some of the population worship the graves beside Allah. Concerning the Berailwis, Allah pronounced them liars and kafirs in Surah 39, verse 3. So Allah Ta'ala told you in Surah 39, verse 3, that those who call upon intermediaries and place between themselves and the intermediaries, they put between themselves and Allah an intermediary, and they beseech, call upon the intermediary, and use the intermediary to reach Allah. Allah said, these people, they are liars and kafirs. Surah Zumar, verse 3.
ألا لله الدين الخالص والذين اتخذوا من دونه أولياء ما نعبدهم إلا ليقربونا إلى الله زلفى إن الله يحكم بينهم فيما هم فيه يختلفون إن الله لا يهدي من هو كاذب كفار.
Surely the religion, the worship belongs to Allah and Allah alone. You are only allowed to worship Allah. And those who take awliya, protectors, helpers, gods beside Him, they claim we worship them so that they will bring us nearer to Allah. Verily, Allah will judge between them concerning that wherein they differ. Truly, Allah will never guide a liar and a kafir. The reason why Allah pronounced the Berailwi a liar and a kafir is because the Berailwi recited the ayah,
إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ.
You alone we worship and you alone we ask for help. He claims that. He recited Surah Fatiha, verse 5. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone we worship and you alone we ask for help. Yet, he prays to the graves and worship the graves. So when he was reciting إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, it didn't come from his heart, it came from his lips. He's a liar and a kafir, and he is a Muslim by culture, not a Muslim by conviction. A real Muslim is the one who is a Muslim by conviction, not a Muslim by culture. You are not allowed to go to the graves of people and speak to them to ask them for things. When you go to the graves, you are only allowed to give salam to them. And you recite the dua that the Prophet used to recite, Assalamu alaikum ahlu diyar min al-mu'mineen wal-muslimin wa inna insha'Allah bikum lahiqin nas'allah lana wa lakum al-afiyah. This is the dua in which you give salam to the inhabitants of the graves and you beg Allah to forgive them and to forgive you, and you say, Insha'Allah, nahnu bikum lahiqun, one day we will all die and join you in the grave. We beg Allah to forgive us and to forgive you. But as for asking the person in the grave for something, it is haram. And when Omar was a caliph, he suffered severe drought. And Omar did not go to the grave of Muhammad and said, Oh Muhammad, beg Allah to send us the rain. He went to Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet, and said, Oh Abbas, you are the uncle of the Prophet, and when the Prophet was alive and we suffered a drought, we would beg the Prophet to pray for us, and the Prophet would pray and Allah would send the rain. Now that the Prophet is dead, we will ask the uncle of the Prophet to pray for us. So you, Abbas, pray for us. And Abbas prayed, and before he could take his hands from the skies, the rain came. If it were halal to pray to the inhabitants of the graves, Omar would have prayed to the Prophet and begged the Prophet and said, Oh Muhammad, beg Allah to send the rain. But because Omar was not a pagan, he wasn't a Berailwi, he wasn't a kafir, a mushrik, He went to somebody who was alive, Abbas, and said, pray for us. This hadith is in Bukhari, and we use it to checkmate the grave worshippers of the Ummah who claim to be Muslims even though they are outside the fold of Islam, because a Muslim worships Allah and Allah alone, and this is the meaning of La ilaha illallah, nothing deserves to be worshipped except Allah. So the shaitan is deceiving the Berailvis, having them thinking they are Muslims even though they are 5-star kafirs outside the fold of Islam. Omar didn't go to the grave of the Prophet and said, "Oh Muhammad, pray for us." Why? Because Omar was a muwahhid, a person who was upon authentic tawheed. A muwahhid means a person who is on tawheed. He wasn't a mushrik, a pagan, he was a muwahhid. So he didn't worship the grave of the Prophet, and your dua is ibadah. Your dua is ibadah. So if your dua is ibadah, how can you offer your dua to somebody other than Allah? Indeed, the Berailvis are outside the fold of Islam. May Allah guide them to authentic tawheed. The next question, please.